The wind hit hard on the mountain pass. It carried the sharp smell of pine and cold stone. A black luxury car sat crooked on the gravel shoulder, its hood still warm, its hazard lights blinking like a weak heartbeat. Inside, a woman in a fitted suit gripped the steering wheel and tried the key again. Nothing. Just silence. Then an old pickup rolled up behind her, tires crunching slow. A man stepped out, broad-shouldered, sleeves rolled, hands already marked with grease and work. And he looked at the stranded car, then at her face like he was measuring the whole moment in one calm breath. "Engine trouble?" he asked. She nodded, and something in his voice pulled at her memory like a string. But why did it feel like she had heard it before? Maris Caldwell had tried the ignition 4 times already. 4 sharp twists, 4 dead answers, no sputter, no cough, just expensive metal refusing to cooperate. She stepped out, her heels biting into loose gravel, and the mountains rose on both sides like dark walls. Far below, a river cut through the trees, bright as glass, beautiful, empty, useless. Her phone showed 1 bar, then none. Then one again, like it was laughing at her. "Of course," she muttered. This morning, she had stood in front of a room full of executives in Denver. She had closed a deal that would push Caldwell Holdings into a new market. Millions on paper. Power in her voice. People listening to every word like it mattered. And now she was alone on a mountain road, and she could not even start her car. The pickup behind her had seen better days. The paint was sun-faded. The bumper had dents. It looked like it had worked for every mile it owned. The driver walked up with steady steps. He wore a tan work shirt with dark stains on the sleeves. His jeans were worn at the knees. His face was weathered, but his eyes were calm, kind even. He glanced at the car, then back at her. "Pop the hood?" Maris hesitated, just for a second. Then she nodded. "Yes, please." He moved with the easy confidence of someone who did not panic around broken things. He found the latch, lifted the hood, and leaned in. Maris stood back, folding her arms to keep from showing how rattled she was. The wind pushed loose strands of her dark hair across her cheek. She tucked them behind her ear and watched him work. Something about him felt familiar. It was not just that he was handsome in a rugged way. It was the way he carried himself. Like he was used to fixing problems without making a show of it. "When's the last time you checked the battery?" he asked, not looking up. I'm not sure," Maris admitted. "I bought it about 6 months ago. It's supposed to be new." He gave a small nod, like he had heard that line 100 times. "Could be a loose terminal. I'll see." He leaned closer, fingers moving with care. Then he stepped back. "Yeah, I need a wrench." He walked to his truck and opened a toolbox in the bed. The metal clinked as he searched. He came back with a wrench in one hand and a rag in the other. Maris watched his hands as he worked. Strong, steady, sure. Her chest tightened, and she did not know why. "I'm Maris," she said, partly to be polite and partly because she needed to hear his name. He looked up. His eyes met hers for a brief moment. A warm smile touched his mouth, quick and real. "Cole," he said. Cole. The name did not strike her like lightning, but the smile did. That smile made her feel like she was not trapped on a mountain road, like she was going to be okay. She had seen that smile before. She was almost sure of it. "You live around here?" she asked, trying to keep her voice light. "About 20 minutes down," Cole said. "I run a repair shop in Granite Hollow." He tightened something with the wrench, then pressed down on the connection like he was testing it. He nodded once, satisfied. "Try it now," he said. Maris slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth and strong, like it had never failed at all. Her breath left her in a shaky rush. "Oh, my God. Thank you." Cole lowered the hood and wiped his hands on the rag. "Loose battery terminal. Happens." Maris stepped out fast and reached for her purse. "Let me pay you, please." "How much do I owe you?" Cole shook his head at once. "Nothing." "No, I insist," she said, and already pulling out her wallet. He raised one hand, firm but not rude. "It took 2 minutes. I'm not taking your money for tightening a bolt." Maris stopped, caught by how simple he made it. No greed, no angle, just help. She pulled out a business card instead. It was thick and clean and expensive. She held it out. "Then take this. If you ever need anything at all, call me." Cole took it. His eyes flicked down to read it. Maris Caldwell, CEO, Caldwell Holdings. His brows lifted a little, just a little. Like the title meant something, but he did not know what to do with it. He tucked the card into his shirt pocket. "Well," he said, voice easy, "I hope the rest of your drive goes smoother." "Thank you," Maris said again, softer. "Really?" Cole gave her that warm smile one more time, then turned and walked back to his truck. Maris stood still as he climbed in, started the engine, and pulled onto the road. The pickup rolled away, and taillights blinking as it curved around the mountain bend. She watched until the red lights became small dots, then nothing. And that was when the feeling hit her like a wave. Not relief, recognition. Her throat went tight. Her heart thudded hard against her ribs. That voice, those eyes, the way he moved like the world could not scare him. She knew him. Maris grabbed the business card he had handed back earlier without thinking, and her fingers shook as she looked at the simple print on it. Cole Mercer, Mercer Auto Repair, Granite Hollow. But the name was wrong, or maybe it was not wrong. Maybe it was different now. Her mind raced backward, cutting through years like a blade. 15 years ago. Westlake University, a cold October night outside the library. She had been a freshman then, wearing a thin jacket that did not keep out the wind. Her hair had been lighter. She had worn big glasses. And she had been broke and scared and trying to pretend she was not. She remembered the steps, the yellow light spilling from the library doors. She remembered the group of drunk guys blocking her path, laughing too loud, saying things that made her skin crawl. She remembered freezing, unable to move. And then she remembered him. A boy from her physics class, quiet, strong, the kind of person who did not need to shout to be heard. And he had stepped between her and those men like it was the most normal thing in the world. His voice had been calm, but it had carried weight. They had backed off. He had walked her to her dorm. They had talked for hours, sitting on the low brick wall near the entrance, their breath fogging in the cold air. She had told him her dreams. He had told her his fears. When the sun started to rise, he had kissed her, soft and careful, like she mattered. His name back then had been Cole Harris, and then he had vanished. Maris's hands flew to her mouth as if that could hold the shock inside her body. "It's him," she whispered to the empty air. Her eyes burned. She slid into her car, shut the door, and just sat there while the engine idled. The inside smelled like leather and money, but her chest felt like that broke student again, sitting under library light with her heart in her throat. Cole Harris, now Cole Mercer. And he had looked at her like she was a stranger. And she drove the rest of the way down the mountain with her thoughts spinning like storm clouds. That night, Maris lay awake in her penthouse in Denver. The space around her was sleek, clean lines, glass, art on the walls that cost more than some people's cars, and it felt empty. She stared at the ceiling and replayed every second on the mountain road. Cole's calm, his steady hands, his warm smile. and his eyes kind but distant, like she was just another stranded driver. He did not remember her. The thought hurt more than she wanted to admit. 15 years ago, she had been nobody. A scholarship girl in second-hand clothes, a young woman trying to survive in a world that did not care if she failed. But that night, when he stepped in, she had felt safe, seen, like she mattered. Then he disappeared, and then she had spent months looking for him. She had asked around campus. She had checked class lists. She had walked past the physics building like maybe he would appear. He never did. Life moved on because life always moved on. Her mother had gotten sick 2 months later. Maris had gone home. Then she had worked like her life depended on it. And it had. Now she grabbed her phone at 2 in the morning and typed his name into a search bar. Mercer Auto Repair came up fast. A simple website and a few photos. Reviews calling him honest, fair, reliable. There was a picture of him in front of the shop, arms crossed, that same quiet smile. Her chest ached. Then she found another photo. A little girl with dark curls and bright eyes sitting on his shoulders. She was laughing so hard her whole face crinkled. There were more photos. School events. A birthday cake. A camping trip near a lake. A father and his daughter. No wife in sight. No woman in any recent picture. And Maris stared at the screen until her eyes blurred. He had built a life. A real one. Without her. Her finger hovered over the message button on the shop's contact page. What would she even say? Hi, it's the girl you saved 15 years ago. I never forgot you. She set the phone down like it was too hot to hold. This was crazy. She was being crazy. But the next morning, she found herself driving back toward the mountains. She told herself it was just to thank him properly. Now to bring lunch. To be decent. Nothing more. Granite Hollow was the kind of town people drove through without stopping. One main street. Old brick buildings. A diner with a faded sign. A hardware store with wind chimes hanging out front. Mercer Auto Repair sat between a coffee shop and a small feed store. The building was modest, the sign plain. Maris parked across the street and stared through the window. Cole was inside, bent over an open hood, sleeves rolled up, and he wiped his hands on a rag, spoke to another man, then nodded like he had all the time in the world. Maris's stomach twisted. She almost drove away. Then Cole glanced up and saw her car. He raised a hand and waved like she was an old friend. Maris swallowed hard. There was no turning back now. The shop smelled like oil and metal and dust. A bell above the door chimed when she stepped in. A woman at the front desk looked up and smiled. Can I help you? I'm looking for Cole, Maris said, her voice steadier than she felt. The woman nodded toward the back. He's right there. Maris turned. Cole was walking toward her, wiping his hands on a rag. His expression was surprised, then pleased, like he was glad she came. Hey, he said. Everything okay with the car? The car is perfect, Maris said quickly. I brought lunch to say thank you, if you have time. She held up a paper bag. And it was from a fancy deli in Denver, and it suddenly looked ridiculous in her hand. Something flickered in Cole's face. Hesitation. Uncertainty. He glanced back toward the shop like he was thinking about work, about responsibility. Then he looked at her again. Yeah, he said finally. I can take a break. Maris's heart gave a small, painful leap. They walked next door and sat on a bench outside the coffee shop. The sun was bright but weak, like it had to fight through the mountain air. And Cole unwrapped his sandwich and gave her a look that was gentle but sharp. Can I ask you something? He said. Maris's stomach dropped. Of course. His gaze shifted to the ground. Yesterday, when you handed me your card. Maris Caldwell, CEO. He let out a slow breath. I looked you up last night. Maris held still. You've done incredible things, he said quietly. Big company. Big life. He finally looked at her. His eyes were serious now. Why are you really here? Maris opened her mouth, then closed it again. Because I found you. Because I never stopped missing you. Because my whole life has been loud, and you are the only quiet that ever felt like home. Instead, she said, I told you. To thank you. Cole's jaw tightened. Not angry, just honest. People like you don't drive all the way up here just to thank a mechanic. His voice softened. So what is this really about? Maris's hands trembled in her lap. The mountain air felt thinner. This was the moment. The moment she had been afraid of since the road. She forced a breath into her lungs. We didn't always live in different worlds, she said. Cole's brow pulled together, confused, thinking. What do you mean? He asked. Maris's heart hammered so loud she could almost hear it. She swallowed. Westlake University, she said. 15 years ago. Physics class. Professor Morrison. Cole went very still, and the sandwich sat forgotten in his hand. And Maris watched his face as something deep inside him started to shift, like a door cracking open in the dark. October, she whispered. Outside the library. Cole's eyes widened slowly. A girl, he said, voice rough. Some guys were bothering her. He stared at Maris like he was afraid to blink. I walked her home, he murmured. Maris nodded, tears rising fast. That was me, Cole. The air between them turned heavy, full of everything they had never said. Cole's mouth parted. His breath caught. He stared at her like she was a ghost that had learned how to breathe. Maris, he whispered, like the name tasted like truth. And in that soft, broken sound, Maris felt 15 years crash into the present all at once. Cole's hand lifted halfway, hovering near hers, not touching yet, like he was scared she might disappear again. And Maris realized the hardest part was still coming. Because remembering was one thing, but choosing what to do next was something else entirely. She blinked through tears and held his gaze, waiting to see if he would reach for her or pull away. The mountain wind swept past the bench, cold and sharp, like it was holding its own breath too. Cole's hand stayed hovering for a second, like he did not trust himself to touch her. Then he pulled back and rubbed his palm over his jeans, as if he had grease on him, even though he had just washed up. His eyes were locked on Maris, but his mind looked far away, racing through a hallway of old memories. You said Westlake, he whispered. Maris nodded. Her throat felt tight. Yes. Cole let out a slow breath and leaned back on the bench. Yeah. At the coffee shop window behind them reflected the two of them like a scene from a life that did not make sense. I was only there a year, he said. I didn't think anybody would remember me. Maris gave a shaky laugh that was half pain, half disbelief. I remembered you. He stared at her, and something flickered in his eyes. Hope. Then fear cut right through it. I remember that night, he said. His voice went rough. I remember being mad at those guys, and I remember the way you were shaking. Maris swallowed. I was terrified. Cole's jaw clenched. You shouldn't have been alone. I was, she said softly. And then you showed up. He looked down at his hands. You had those big glasses, he murmured, like he was seeing her again in his mind. And you kept trying to act tough, but your voice was trembling. Maris's eyes burned. You noticed. I noticed everything, he said, and the words came out too honest, too raw. He cleared his throat like he regretted saying it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Cars passed on Main Street, slow and quiet. A wind chime outside the coffee shop clinked in the breeze. Maris finally asked the question that had lived in her chest for 15 years. "Why did you leave?" Cole's shoulders lifted slightly, then fell. "My dad got hurt at work," he said. "Bad. He couldn't do his job anymore. Bills stacked up fast, and I was already barely making it." Maris listened, breathing shallow. "I tried," he went on. "I tried to stay. I was working nights at a warehouse, but tuition was due, rent was due, everything was due. I was drowning." His voice cracked on that last word, and Maris's heart squeezed. "I didn't even have money for gas some weeks," he said. "And then that night happened, with you." Maris held still. "It was the best night of my life," Cole said quietly. "I'm not saying that to be dramatic, I mean it. You looked at me like I wasn't just some broke kid. You talked about your dreams like they mattered, like you mattered." Tears slipped down Maris's cheeks before she could stop them. Cole's gaze lifted to her face. His eyes softened, and the wall he had been holding up started to tremble. "I thought maybe," he said, voice barely there, "maybe we could be something." Maris wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, embarrassed. "I did too." Cole swallowed hard. "But then I got the call. My dad, my little brother. They needed me, and I left." Maris leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. "I looked for you," she said. "I asked around. I kept thinking maybe you were sick, or you transferred, or you—" "I looked for you too," Cole cut in fast, like he could not hold it back anymore. "I went back to campus a month later. I walked past the library. I checked the dorm desk, but I didn't have your number, didn't know your last name. Yet you were just Maris from physics." Maris's breath caught like she had been punched softly in the chest. "You looked for me," she whispered. Cole's eyes flashed with old frustration. "I did. And when I couldn't find you, I told myself I imagined it. I told myself you forgot me the next day." Maris shook her head hard. "No." Cole's mouth pressed into a line. "Life didn't give me time to keep looking." Maris knew that feeling. The way life could slam a door and keep pushing forward, even when your heart wanted to run back. She took a slow breath. "2 months later, my mom got sick," she said. "Cancer. Fast. I left school to take care of her. When I went back later, you were gone." Cole's eyes widened. "Your mom—" "She passed the next year," Maris said. Her voice stayed steady, but her fingers twisted together in her lap. "After that, I worked. All I did was work. I told myself if I built something big enough, I wouldn't feel so powerless again." Cole studied her face like he was seeing the whole story behind her suit and her title for the first time. "That's why you're, you," he said slowly. Maris gave a small nod. "I built the company with my uncle. Then I bought him out. Then I kept going." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "And you're still alone." It was not a question. Maris's chest tightened. She looked away toward the street. "Yes," she admitted. Cole's shoulders sagged. Like her answer hurt him, too. "I didn't recognize you yesterday," he said, voice low. "Not at first." Maris looked back at him. "But you do now." Cole's eyes held hers. "I do." The silence between them turned thick and strange. It was not awkward. It was heavy with meaning. Maris forced herself to ask, "Why didn't you tell me you knew?" Cole's mouth twisted. He looked away. Because it didn't seem possible, he said. Because you handed me a card that says you're a CEO, and I'm me. Maris leaned closer. Cole. He shook his head like he was trying to keep control. When I saw that title, I thought, no, there's no way. Not you. Not the girl from the library steps. Maris' eyes stung. I'm still her. Cole laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You're also the woman who can buy this whole town if you want it. I don't want to, Maris said. Cole's gaze dropped to her hands. Yet you don't understand what that looks like from my side. Maris did understand. She understood too well. People looked at her now like she was made of glass and money, like she wasn't human anymore. Then tell me, she said softly. Tell me what it looks like. Cole took a breath. It looks like a woman who could have anyone, he said. A woman who has a life I can't even picture. He looked up then, and the pain in his eyes made Maris's throat burn. And it looks like me, he continued. And a guy who fixes cars. A guy who goes home to a small house and an 8-year-old girl and frozen dinners when he's too tired to cook. Maris blinked. Your daughter, she whispered. Cole's face changed instantly when he spoke about her, softer, warmer. Lila, he said. She's my whole world. Maris had seen the photos. Dark curls, bright eyes, that same smile. She's beautiful, Maris said. Cole nodded, proud but guarded. She's smart, loud, stubborn. His mouth lifted just a little. She tells me what to do like she's my boss. Maris felt something twist inside her. Not jealousy, not fear, just the weight of knowing his life was real and full in ways hers wasn't. Her mom? Maris asked carefully. Cole's expression closed slightly. She left when Lila was 2, he said. She wanted something else. I don't talk bad about her in front of Lila, but she's not in the picture. Maris nodded slowly. I'm sorry. Cole shrugged like he had learned how to carry that hurt. Oh, it is what it is. A pause stretched. Maris's voice came out quiet. I don't want to mess up your life. Cole's eyes flicked to hers, sharp. Then why are you here? Because I couldn't sleep. Because I drove back up that mountain, like my heart was pulling me by a rope. Because finding you again felt like fate. Maris swallowed. Because I needed to know I wasn't crazy, she said. I needed to know it was really you. Cole stared at her for a long moment. And then he looked down at the sandwich in his hand, now untouched, and gave a small shake of his head. This is wild, he murmured. Maris let out a breath that sounded like a laugh. Yes. Cole's eyes lifted again, and there was something dangerous in them now, not anger. Vulnerability. I thought about you, he said. For a long time. Maris's heart beat hard. I thought about you too. Cole pressed his lips together like he was fighting with himself. Then he said, yesterday on that road, you looked at me like you were trying to place me. I was, Maris admitted. And I saw it, Cole said. And it scared me. Maris frowned. Why? Cole's voice dropped. Because if it was you, he said, then it means something I buried isn't buried anymore. Maris's breath caught. Cole leaned forward, elbows on his knees now, staring at the ground. Jan, I've built a life here, he said. Not fancy, not big, but it's real. It's mine, and it's steady, and the moment you walked into my shop, it felt like the ground shifted. Maris watched him, her chest aching. I'm not here to wreck your steadiness, she said. Cole nodded once, but his eyes stayed troubled. I know. He looked up at her then, and for a second she saw the younger him, the college boy on the library steps, the one who looked at her like she was worth saving. But now he had something in his eyes that the boy didn't have. Fear. "You need to go back to your life," Cole said quietly. Maris felt the words hit her like cold water. "Cole," he held up a hand, stopping her. "I'm not saying I don't want to see you," he said. "I'm saying I don't know how this fits." Maris swallowed hard. "Maybe it doesn't have to fit right away." Cole shook his head. "That's easy to say when you're the one who can walk away without losing anything." Maris stiffened. "Yeah, you think this doesn't cost me anything?" Cole's eyes flashed. "I think you can choose. I don't get to choose without it affecting my kid." Maris's throat tightened. The reminder landed heavy. "I'm not asking you to choose me over her," Maris said fast. "Never." Cole's face softened a little. "Good," he whispered. They sat in silence again. The wind chimes clinked. A door opened and closed. Someone laughed inside the coffee shop. Maris's voice came out small. "Oh, can I meet her?" Cole's head snapped up. His eyes widened. Maris immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, that was too fast." Cole stared at her like he was weighing the world. "She's not a casual thing," he said. "I know," Maris whispered. When I saw the photos last night, Cole's expression shifted, surprise flickering. "You looked me up." Maris nodded, ashamed and honest. "I did. I couldn't stop myself." Cole blew out a slow breath and leaned back again, staring up at the pale sky. "I should get back," he said, voice tight. "Cars don't fix themselves." Maris' stomach dropped. "Okay." Cole stood, brushing crumbs off his jeans. He looked down at her. "I'm glad you're okay," he said. "I'm glad your car made it." Maris rose too. Her hands felt cold. "Cole," she said softly, Can we talk again?" Cole's eyes held hers for a long moment. He looked like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. Then he gave a small nod. "Maybe," he said. Maybe?" Maris echoed, trying to smile. Cole's mouth twitched like he wanted to smile back, but couldn't fully. "I'll think about it." He started to turn away. Maris's chest tightened. She took a step after him. "I don't want to lose you again," she blurted. Cole stopped. His shoulders went still. Slowly he turned back to her. His eyes were dark now, full of something that made Maris's breath catch. "You don't know what you're asking," he said quietly. Maris swallowed. "Now then tell me." Cole took one step closer, then another. He was close enough now that she could smell soap and coffee, and a hint of engine oil still on his skin. "I'm asking you to be careful with me," he said. "Because if I let you back in, I don't know if I can pull myself out." Maris's eyes filled. "I'm not here to play with you," she whispered. Cole stared at her, and for a second he looked like he might touch her. Instead, he stepped back, and like he was forcing himself to do the hard thing. "I have to go," he said. Then he turned and walked back toward the shop. Maris stood on the sidewalk watching him go, her heart pounding, her throat tight. He had remembered. He had looked for her. He had missed her. But he was still walking away. And as the bell over the shop door chimed behind him, Maris realized something with a sharp, sinking fear. Seeing each other again was not the end of the story, and it was the beginning of the hard part. Because now she had to figure out how to prove she was not just passing through his world, and Cole had to decide if he could risk opening his life to her again. Maris stayed there staring at the door, fighting the urge to chase him inside. Then her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from her assistant. A reminder about an emergency video call in 30 minutes. Her city life pulling at her like a chain. Maris looked at the shop one more time, and then at the road out of town, and she did not know which direction would break her heart more. Maris sat in her car across from Mercer Auto Repair with her phone in her hand. The screen showed her assistant's message again. Emergency call, 30 minutes. She stared at it until the letters blurred. Her whole life was built on moments like that. Urgent, demanding, always pulling her back to the world she had built with her own hands, the world that had never once held her when she cried. Across the street, the shop door opened, and Cole stepped out and looked down the road like he was searching for something, or someone. Maris's heart jumped. She pushed her door open before she could talk herself out of it. "Cole!" she called. He turned fast, like he had been hoping she would stop him. For a second, neither of them moved. Then Cole walked toward her with slow steps. Not angry, not cold, just careful. "I thought you left," he said. "I was going to," Maris admitted. "I should. I have a call, and I have 1,000 things waiting for me." Cole nodded like he expected that, like he had already decided she would choose that life over this one. Maris lifted her chin. "But I can't stop thinking about what you said." Cole's eyes narrowed slightly. "What I said?" "I don't know what I'm asking," Maris said, voice tight. "Then tell me. Tell me what you're scared of. Don't walk away again without letting me understand." Cole's jaw worked, like he was chewing on words he did not want to say. Finally, he took a breath. "I'm scared of you leaving," he said simply. Maris's chest tightened. Cole kept going, and his voice grew rougher with each sentence. "You'll go back to Denver. You'll go back to boardrooms and flights and people who talk in numbers. You'll get busy. And I'll be here. I'll be the mistake you made when you got emotional." Maris shook her head. "That's not—" Cole lifted his hand, stopping her. "You don't know my life," he said. "And you don't know what it feels like to be left. To wake up and realize you're raising a little girl alone because someone decided you weren't enough." Maris felt the sting of tears again, but she held her ground. "I'm not her," she whispered. Cole's eyes flashed. "I know, but fear doesn't care what I know." Maris swallowed hard. "Then let me show you," she said. Cole's brow pulled together. "Show me what?" "That I'm not here for a day," Maris said. "Yeah, that I'm not here because I feel sorry for you. That I'm here because you are the only person who ever made me feel like I didn't have to earn love." Cole stared at her like he did not trust his own heart. Maris took one step closer. The wind tugged at her hair. The mountains stood behind him like silent witnesses. 15 years ago, Maris said, you saved me on those library steps. You don't even know what that did to me. And I spent my whole life after that, trying to be strong enough that no one could corner me again." Cole's eyes softened just a little. "And I did it," Maris continued. "I built everything people said I couldn't. I made myself untouchable." She let out a shaky breath. "But it's lonely up there, Cole. It's so lonely." Cole's face tightened with something that looked like pain. Maris blinked hard, forcing her voice steady. "Yesterday you tightened a bolt and refused my money. That you looked at me like I was just a person, not a title." Cole's throat bobbed. He looked away for a second, like her words were too much. Maris reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "I can take the call," she said. "I can step into my car right now and go back to that life." Cole's eyes lifted to hers. "But I'm not going to," she said. Cole frowned. "What?" Maris turned her phone off in front of him. The screen went black. And Cole stared at it, like he had never seen someone choose anything over work before. "I'm staying today," Maris said, "and I'll come back tomorrow. And the next day, if you'll let me. I'll drive up here until you believe me." Cole's mouth parted slightly. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do," Maris said. "Because you think I'm going to wake up and regret you?" And you need to understand something. She stepped close enough now that she could see the small lines near his eyes, and the ones that came from smiling, the ones she had remembered without even knowing she remembered. I regret a lot, she said softly. I regret not finding you sooner. I regret letting life scare me into thinking love was something I could survive without. Cole's breath caught. But I will never regret you, Maris whispered. The air between them went still. Cole stared at her like he was standing in front of a door he had kept locked for years, and like he could feel his hand on the knob but was terrified to turn it. He exhaled, shaky. I have a daughter, he said. I know, Maris said. Her name is Lila. Cole went very still. How do you... I saw the photos, Maris admitted. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I needed to know if you were real. Cole's eyes narrowed, not angry, just guarded. And what did you think? Maris's voice softened. I thought she's lucky, she said. Because she has you. Cole's throat moved, and he looked down at his boots on the sidewalk like he needed the ground to hold him up. She comes first, he said quietly. Always. Maris nodded without hesitation. She should. Cole looked up at her then, and something in his eyes shifted. A small piece of the wall falling away. You can't just walk into her life, he said. I won't, Maris promised. I'll follow your lead. I'll earn trust. Both of yours. Cole's chest rose and fell slowly, but I don't want her to get attached to someone who might leave. Maris reached out and touched his arm, gentle, giving him time to pull away if he needed to. He did not. I won't make promises I can't keep, she said. But I can tell you this. I'm not looking for a fling. I'm not looking for a story to tell my rich friends. Her voice broke a little. I'm looking for home. Cole's eyes burned. He swallowed hard. For a long moment, and he just stared at her hand on his sleeve like it meant more than any contract she had ever signed. Then he moved. Not fast. Not like a movie. Just real. He stepped closer and cupped her face with both hands. His palms were warm, rough, familiar in a way her body recognized before her mind could. I'm scared, he whispered. I know, Maris breathed. Cole's thumbs brushed the wetness on her cheeks. I'm scared I'll let you in and it'll ruin me. Maris pressed her hand over his. I'm scared too, she admitted. But I'm more scared of driving away and spending the rest of my life wondering what we could have been. Cole's breath hitched. He leaned in and kissed her. It was soft at first, careful, like he was making sure she was real. Then it deepened, and 15 years of missing slammed into one moment. Maris's knees went weak. She held onto his shirt like it was the only solid thing in the world. When they pulled apart, Cole rested his forehead against hers. I loved you back then, he said, voice rough. I never stopped. I just buried it so deep I could pretend it didn't hurt. Maris let out a small, broken laugh through tears. I loved you too, she whispered. I measured every man against you, and they all lost. Cole's mouth twitched into the faintest smile. Then he pulled back slightly, like reality was returning. I can't leave Granite Hollow, he said. This is Lila's home. Maris nodded. I don't need you to. Cole stared at her. Your company? I have a team, Maris said. I built it so I could breathe. I can work remote more than people think. I can be here. Cole's eyes searched her face. You do that? Maris nodded again, firm. Yes. Cole let out a slow breath like he was trying not to hope too hard. Come with me, he said. Maris followed him around the side of the shop to a small gravel lot behind it. An older SUV sat there with stickers on the back window. A little dinosaur. A rainbow. a crooked heart. Cole opened the back door and pulled out a child's backpack. "She'll be out of school in an hour," he said. "I pick her up every day." Maris's stomach fluttered. "Okay." Cole looked at her carefully. "You can come with me," he said. "But you don't have to meet her today. You can just ride along, no pressure. I want you to see my life." Maris nodded, her throat tight. "I want to." They drove in his old pickup, not her luxury car, and the cab smelled like clean laundry and faint engine oil. A small stuffed bear sat on the dashboard. Cole kept both hands on the wheel like driving gave him something to hold on to. "I need you to understand something," he said quietly. "Lila is everything to me. If she gets hurt, You won't have to say it," Maris said. "I get it." Cole glanced at her, and his eyes softened. The school was small, one story. Kids running around the yard. Mountains behind it like a painted backdrop. And Cole parked and sat still for a second, gripping the wheel. "You okay?" Maris asked. Cole blew out a breath. "I'm nervous," he admitted. "That's stupid." "It's not stupid," Maris said. A few minutes later, the front doors opened and children poured out like a wave. Maris's heart beat fast as she watched. Then she saw her. Dark curls bouncing, pink jacket, backpack too big for her shoulders. She moved like she had a mission, eyes scanning the parking lot. When she spotted Cole, her whole face lit up. "Dad!" she screamed. She ran full speed. Cole stepped out just in time to catch her as she threw herself into his arms. Maris watched, her chest aching in a sweet, painful way. Cole kissed the top of Lila's head. "Hey, Peanut." Lila pulled back and looked into the truck. Her gaze landed on Maris. Her eyes narrowed like she was already asking questions. Cole cleared his throat. "Lila," he said gently. "This is Maris." Lila stared for one long second, and then she said, blunt and loud, "Are you my dad's girlfriend?" Maris froze. Cole's face went red. "Lila," he warned, but there was no real anger in it. Maris crouched down slowly so she was eye level with the little girl. I'm your dad's friend," Maris said carefully. "We knew each other a long time ago." Lila studied her like she was deciding if Maris was safe. Then she looked at Cole. "Does she like dinosaurs?" Cole blinked. "She might." Maris nodded quickly. "I do," she said. "I love dinosaurs." Lila's eyes widened, impressed. "What's your favorite?" Maris's mind went blank for half a second. Then she remembered the sticker. She pointed at the dinosaur on the SUV window. "That one," she said. "A triceratops, strong, not easy to knock over." Lila smiled like Maris had given the right answer. "Okay," Lila said like she had just approved a business deal. "We can get ice cream then." Cole stared at his daughter. "Ice cream?" "Dad," Lila said like he was slow. "Oh, we always get ice cream on Fridays." Cole glanced at Maris, helpless. Maris laughed, a real laugh, and the sound surprised her. "Ice cream sounds perfect," she said. They went to a small place on Main Street with a chalkboard menu and sticky tables. Lila talked the whole time. About school, about a boy who pulled her braid, and about how her teacher said she was creative, which Lila said meant, "I talk too much." Maris listened and smiled and found herself relaxing in a way she never had in a fancy restaurant in Denver. Cole watched her the whole time, quiet, like he was taking her in, like he was trying to understand how she fit into this. When they walked back to the truck, Lila grabbed Maris's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maris's heart stuttered. Cole saw it. His eyes went soft. And then his face tightened again, fear returning. That night, after dinner at Cole's small house, Maris stood on the back porch with a mug of tea she barely tasted. The porch wood creaked under her feet. The air smelled like pine and smoke from someone's fireplace down the road. Inside, Lila was in pajamas, curled on the couch watching an old cartoon. She had insisted Maris sit with them. Cole had sat on the other side, and his arm resting along the back of the couch, like he was still making sure this was real. Now the stars were coming out one by one above the dark ridge. Cole stepped onto the porch beside Maris, quiet. "She likes you," he said, voice low. Maris's throat tightened. "She's wonderful." Cole nodded, staring out at the night. "She doesn't like many people," he admitted. "She's got good instincts." Maris smiled softly. "So do you." Cole's mouth twitched. Then he went serious again. "I need to ask you something," he said. Maris turned to him. "Okay." Cole swallowed. "What happens when your world calls you back?" he asked. "When the people in suits want you in a room again? When you have to fly to another city?" Maris held his gaze. "I'll still come back," she said. Cole shook his head slightly. "That's not an answer." Maris stepped closer. The porch light painted his face in warm gold. "You're right," she said. So here's a real answer." She lifted her phone from her pocket and opened her calendar. She scrolled, then handed it to him. Cole stared at the screen. Maris had blocked off every Friday and Saturday for the next 3 months. She had written one note on each weekend. Granite Hollow. Cole's throat worked. "Maris, I can't rewrite the past," she said softly. "But I can show up now, over and over, until you stop waiting for me to disappear." Cole's eyes shone, and then he looked away like he was fighting tears. Maris reached for his hand. This time he let her take it. "I'm not asking you to jump," she whispered. "I'm asking you to stand here with me." Cole's fingers tightened around hers. For a moment, the only sound was the wind moving through the trees. Then Lila's voice called from inside. "Dad! Maris! Come see this! The dinosaur is doing a dance!" Maris laughed again, and Cole's face softened into that smile she had carried for 15 years. He pulled her closer and kissed her forehead. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay. We'll try." Maris closed her eyes, breathing him in, feeling the porch beneath her feet, the cold air in her lungs, the steady warmth of his hand. This was not a perfect ending. It was better. It was real. And as Maris walked back inside with Cole and Lila, she knew she had finally found the thing she had been searching for all along. Not a deal, not a title, not a tower of glass, just home. And if you believe stories still matter, go ahead and hit subscribe, Stories Beyond the Porch. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.